First off, this card was amazing. Definitely the best card of the year so far. It's always a good sign when the card flies by, and man, did this card fly by. Now let's get right into it. In the main event, we had Alexander Volkanovski versus Diego Lopes for the featherweight title. Alexander Volkanovski defeats Diego Lopes by unanimous decision. Put some respect on the man's name, Alexander the Great Volkanovski. Volk showed he's still that guy at 145 pounds. Volk came out looking his usual self in this fight, using his footwork, the feints, stance switches, using that lead hand trapping. The most important strike of the entire fight for me was Volk's jab. Volk would blitz in and snap Diego's head back with that jab throughout the entire fight. Early in the fight, Volk used that jab pretty much as a rangefinder. In the middle rounds, you could tell that Lopes was starting to get the timing of Volk's jab, and he was trying to counter it with that right over the top of Volk's jab. Volk, with all his experience, started to use his feints and low kicks and would start to get back into using the jab. It was truly a masterclass from Volk. He let everybody know he's still the great. Diego Lopes was definitely in this fight and showed he belonged in there. Lopes was having a tough time really getting the Volk, and you could see that frustration was getting to him towards the end of the fight. Both guys, in my opinion, showed they both are the elite of the elite in the division. In round two, Lopes dropped Volk with a big right hand, and it looked like Lopes could possibly get a finish at the end of the round, but Volk managed to get to the end of the round. And after that, it was pretty much just smooth sailing for Alexander Volkanovski. It looked as if Diego was kind of like a half step behind Volk the entire fight. He was very close to him, but just for whatever reason, he would miss by a little bit. Literally every time they would come together, you just would hold your breath because you were expecting something to happen each and every time. After the Ilya Topuria fight, you could see Volk doing a really good job, constantly moving, getting his head off the center line, and it just was truly a beautiful display of striking. Volk mixed in 9 takedown attempts. Diego did an amazing job of stopping the takedown attempts, and it just looked like Volk was just trying to give something else for Diego to think about. I don't think Diego goes down from this fight. In my opinion, he did look good. It's just Alexander Volkanovski was just a little bit better. He looked the part, and I think he'll be back in the future. So now the question is, where does Volk go next? In my opinion, there's a very clear number one contender at featherweight, and that guy's Movsar Evloev. I think the next fight for Diego Lopes is an obvious one as well, and I think it's Yair Rodriguez, especially after their little back and forth at the press conference. And I know a lot of people really want to see this fight. And right now, it makes perfect sense. That is definitely the fight to make. What's up, everybody? Crossover MMA back in here for another video. Make sure you like the video and subscribe for more content. In the co-main event, we had Michael Chandler versus Paddy Pimblett. Pimblett defeats Michael Chandler by a third-round TKO. I think we learned 2 big things from this fight. Number one, Paddy Pimblett is a gamer and will be a real contender at lightweight. Number 2, Michael Chandler's done being on main cards of pay-per-views. He's 2-5 in the UFC and is now on a 3-fight skid. This fight was truly one-way traffic and just complete domination from Paddy Pimblett. Paddy Pimblett landed 80 significant strikes to just 11 significant strikes from Michael Chandler. Paddy came out and showed he belongs at the top of the lightweight division. Paddy used low kicks, jabs, 1-2s, and pretty much just controlled the center of the octagon. These long-range strikes never really allowed Chandler to close the distance and land anything of consequence. I was really impressed by Paddy. Nobody has beaten Michael Chandler like in the UFC. If you think about it, the Charles Oliveira 1 fight was back and forth. Chandler almost finished Oliveira in the first round. The Dustin Poirier Michael Chandler fight was back and forth, and Michael Chandler almost finished Dustin Poirier. And here it is, Paddy Pimblett, one-way traffic, was never in danger at any point in this fight, and he finishes Michael Chandler. It was a very impressive performance. It looks like Paddy has some Charles Oliveira vibes, in my opinion, with his BJJ. It just gives him so much freedom on the feet. And you can tell on the ground, he is a problem. Like, this guy's technique and the way he maneuvers and gets to advantageous positions is very impressive. And you can tell that Paddy's striking is getting better, and he's implementing into his game very well. Paddy also showed that he has very good wrestling. He landed 4 out of 7 takedowns on Michael Chandler. Paddy just really looked like he's just big brother Chandler in there, honestly. This was definitely his best performance since being in the UFC for Paddy Pimblett. Now, where does each guy go from here? I think Paddy has a couple different options. And one option I think a lot of people kind of forget about is the Ilia Topuria matchup. Now, we all remember they had their beef at the press conference with the water bottle, the hand sanitizer. And, you know, if the UFC gives Ilia Topuria that title shot, another matchup you could do is Arman Tsarukyan, who's #1 contender at lightweight, and he has to fight somebody. And now Paddy Pimblett's going to be in the top 10. Paddy and Arman had a little back and forth this week. And as we know, Arman isn't getting that title shot and he has to fight somebody. And I think that could potentially make sense as well. Now, where does Michael Chandler go from here? I think he goes to the prelims or on the main card of fight nights from here on out. And he's pretty much just going to serve as the gatekeeper for up-and-coming fighters. I think another good matchup for him could possibly be Grant Dawson. In the feature fight, we had Yair Rodriguez versus Patricio Pitbull. Yair Rodriguez defeats Patricio Pitbull by unanimous decision. This fight was never really close or ever in doubt. Yair just controlled the range and the pace of the fight. Pitbull could never really close the distance or land anything of consequence. He was just taking pictures of Yair instead of really just getting after him and staying on the inside. Yair does his best work, or did his best work, when he has plenty of airspace, and Pitbull just allowed it for the entire fight. I think Pitbull wanted to implement that game plan of pressure and closing distance, but he just could not with Yair's speed and his length advantage. The kicks were just coming from all different angles and different directions from Yair, and Pitbull just never really got settled into the fight. It just didn't look like Pitbull had any urgency in there at all, and he just never really stepped on the gas and just really tried to get after Yair. He looked as if he was just content staying at range and just getting picked apart by Yair. This was the exact opposite of what he needed to do. On the flip side, this was a much needed win for Yair Rodriguez, who was on a 2-fight skid coming into the fight. I think Yair's next fight is very obvious. As I already mentioned, I do think he should fight Diego Lopes next. It just seems like that fight just fell into place after press conference, and it just makes complete sense. It may have to be on the main card of a pay-per-view or headline of a fight night, but that fight just makes sense for me. Patricio Pitbull is in a similar position as Michael Chandler is, as he's aging in a division that's kind of going through a little bit of turnover. I think the UFC will either use him for up-and-coming fighters or give him matchups against older fighters. If they give him an older guy, a matchup I think would be a lot of fun, and I don't think any of the fans would complain about, would be Josh Emmett. Both are vets, and I think the matchup is just super explosive. In the next fight, we had Bryce Mitchell versus Gene Silva. Gene Silva defeats Bryce Mitchell by a second-round submission. I know no one had that on that bingo card. If you say you did, you're definitely lying. The fight nerds are real, people. The gym is showing they truly are the class of the UFC right now. In the first round, it was very much just filling each other out, and Silva was being very safe, trying to make reads and trying to figure out Bryce Mitchell. Mitchell in the first round was basically leading the dance and just touching Silva with strikes. Mitchell was doing a really good job of using low kicks, and he really was having success with them. He also was switching stances a lot and just making it tough for Silva to get his reads. One big thing we did learn in this fight is that Gene Silva's takedown defense is up to par. Gene Silva loves fighting and just being in the octagon, and you just can see that when you watch his fights. Bryce Mitchell did get one takedown in the first. Gene Silva went for a guillotine, and it actually was pretty deep. He had a good chance of getting it, but Bryce Mitchell managed to get out of it and survive. The best 2 shots of the first round were landed by Silva, and then he had 2 different submission attempts. This guy's a lot of fun, people, every time he steps inside the octagon. Round 2 starts, Silva drops Bryce with a right hand, and he didn't even look to swarm him, just allowed Bryce back to his feet. As soon as he got back to his feet, Silva proceeds to defend a few more takedowns, and he's just hunting Bryce Mitchell at this point, just stalking him around the octagon. Bryce is trying to keep Silva off of him, but the strikes just are not slowing down at all. They get tied up in the clinch, and then next thing you know, Silva goes for like this front ninja choke, snaps Bryce to the ground, and next thing you know, Bryce Mitchell's tapping. It's another beautiful performance for Gene Silva. I think this guy is on the up and coming. They need to put a rocket pack on this guy's back and just shoot him up the rankings, give him a big fight in his next matchup. He looks like he's a legit contender, some of the best striking in the division, and we just saw him defend takedowns and even had some submissions up his sleeve. I think a next fight, if they don't put him too far up the rankings, could be Giga Shikatsu, and I think that would be a striker's delight, and I think all the fans would enjoy watching that. In the next fight, we had Nikita Krylov versus Dominick Reyes. Dominick Reyes defeats Nikita Krylov by a first-round TKO. The Devastator is back, people. You can tell he's fighting with more confidence. All that potential we saw in the Jon Jones fight is still there. This fight did not last long at all. In the first 35 seconds, Reyes lands a crisp jab, and it just wobbles Krylov. It's a clear sign of things to come. We knew coming in that Nikita Krylov fights like a reckless madman in this fight, and it definitely cost him dearly in this fight. With a little over 2 minutes left in the round, Krylov comes rushing forward, trying to close the distance. Reyes lands a beautiful pullback counter a la Conor McGregor versus Jose Aldo. It's literally a carbon copy, and it was beautiful. Reyes made Krylov's chin touch his own shoulder, and when you see that happen, you know a guy is done. It was a great win for Dominick Reyes, and now he's trying to make his title run at 205. Up next, I think a great fight for Dominick Reyes would be Alexander Volkanovski. Now we've come to the prelim highlight. In the next fight, we had Dan Ige versus Sean Woodson. Dan Ige defeats Sean Woodson by a third-round TKO. This was probably one of the worst stoppages you'll ever see. Round one was all Sean Woodson. He kept Dan Ige at range. Ige never really could get going because he just couldn't close the distance. Round two was much more of the same, but in round two, Ige did get a little bit more forward on the pressure and was a little bit more aggressive trying to close the distance. I gave the first 2 rounds to Woodson. Then we get to round 3 and Ige comes out trying to get inside straight away, right on the pressure. Ige then lands a massive left overhand 30 seconds into the round, and it hurts Woodson badly. He backs up, he's wobbly. Woodson's trying to survive, covering up. Ige is just throwing shots, trying to put him away, and Ige's just all over Woodson. Woodson's on his feet, covering up. Woodson then shoots a takedown, and he kind of gets stuck on his knees, and Ige is just landing a few shots to the side of the head. They're not really anything crazy, and Woodson's trying to get back to his feet, and as he's trying to stand back up, the ref jumps in and stops the fight. It is one of the worst stoppages you'll ever see. Woodson protests immediately, and you just can't hear the announcers talking about how bad the stoppage is. It's just a bad look. Woodson, was getting back to his feet, and the fight just got stopped. That's a rough one for Sean Woodson, but a great win for Dan Ige. And I think Dan Ige should get a step up in the rankings for what he did for the UFC at UFC 306 at the Sphere, and then getting the win at UFC 314. His next matchup, in my opinion, should either be Aljamain Sterling or you could do him with Josh Emmett. In the next fight, we had Darren Elkins versus Julian Erosa. Julian Erosa defeats Darren Elkins by a first-round TKO. This fight really showed me I think it's time for Darren Elkins to hang it up. He got wobbled from the first shot he took and never really recovered. He was on autopilot after that. The damage has taken so much damage in his UFC career, and it's just been a lot. On the other side, Julian Erosa did exactly what he needed to do. Elkins got a takedown, but Erosa landed a heavy up kick, and it rocked Elkins straight away. Once both guys got back to their feet, Erosa started stalking Elkins. Elkins was trying to have a poker face, but his body language was giving him away, and you just can tell he was not recovered. Both guys were exchanging shots. Erosa is getting the better of pretty much all the exchanges. Elkins is in on a single leg and is just kind of stuck on his knees. He's just eating hammer fist. Elkins then gets back up. Elkins lands a nasty elbow and it drops Elkins. Elkins goes for a single leg, but just continues to eat more hammer fists. Mike Beltran steps in, stops the fight. I say let's get Julian Erosa a top 15 matchup in his next fight. In the next fight, we have Sedriques Dumas versus Michał Oleksiejczuk. Michał Oleksiejczuk defeats Sedriques Dumas by first-round TKO. Oleksiejczuk comes out on the pressure, puts Dumas on the back foot straight away. Dumas is trying to use kicks to keep Oleksiejczuk off him, but it's not having the desired effect at all. Oleksiejczuk is just stalking Dumas. You can see the anxiety in Dumas clearly, and the pressure is just getting to him. Oleksiejczuk lands a beautiful left straight, drops Dumas. Oleksiejczuk swarms Dumas with ground and pound. Dumas is just trying to cover up, not really moving, not really doing anything. Mark Goddard jumps in, stops the fight, and it's a much-needed win for Michał Oleksiejczuk. In the next fight, we have Tresean Gore versus Marco Tulio. Marco Tulio defeats Tresean Gore by a second-round TKO. This fight was amazing. Both guys went after it, gave us a really good fight, and it was a lot of fun. Marco Tulio came out letting his hands and feet go off the rip. Straight shots, fast kicks. The output from both guys was phenomenal. Tulio's a bit flat-footed, but you can tell he has big power in his hands. Respect to Tresean Gore. This guy ate so many big shots and just kept coming. Tulio did a really good job of using his jab, his right hand, his low kicks, his teeps to the body. Gore then responded well, landed a nice left hook, and it buckled Tulio, nearly dropped him in the first round. Both guys are exchanging. Tulio, I would say, is getting the better of the exchanges. And I really like Tulio using his teeps, and then he started to go into his bag and use his combinations and just controlling the pace and the range of the fight. At this point, Gore is really wearing it on the face, and Tulio's just starting to overwhelm Gore towards the end of the round. Gore isn't really throwing back much and just eating these shots. Tulio then drops Gore with a beautiful left hook. Tulio then lets him back up, and Gore then lands a massive right straight, gets a big reaction out of Tulio. Gore then lands a big right overhand. Tulio responds with a spinning wheel kick to the head, and it's just an amazing first round, maybe the best round of the year so far. At the start of round two, both guys have slowed down a little bit because it was just such a frantic pace in the first round. Tulio gets back to the low kicks, and then he really just starts to overwhelm Gore. Tulio starts mixing in the combination, and you just can tell Tresean Gore has no idea what's coming next. Tulio then lands a beautiful head kick and then a massive right straight, drops Tresean Gore, swarms him looking for the finish. Gore's moving, trying to survive, gets back to his feet. Then Tulio's just right back on him, lands a massive right straight and drops him, and that's the finish. Marco Tulio let people know who he is, and he definitely gained some new fans. In the next fight, we have Nora Kano versus Hailey Cowan. Nora Kano defeats Hailey Cowan by a second-round submission. Nora Kano, the Muay Thai striker, gets the submission wins, another surprise method of victory on the card. I think that's a great sign for a striker showing that they have submission ability. Kano lost the first round, in my opinion, and then came out super aggressive in round two. She got a takedown straight away, got Cohen's back, and then next thing you know, she's got both hooks in, and she's right under her chin, and she gets the tap. It's a great win for Nora Kano. If you made it this far in the video, I really appreciate it. Questions, comments, thoughts, and your feedback is always welcome. And as always, until next time.